Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're tackling something pretty groundbreaking, Alnas.
Mm,
It calls itself The People, and it's this global initiative aiming to, well, empower individuals using collective will to improve justice and honestly just make life a bit easier.
exactly. And you, our listener, you're probably looking to get a solid grasp pretty quickly on what makes Alnas tick.
Yeah.
We've got this comprehensive set of materials here laying out their whole structure, their ambitions,
Yeah.
and it's quite a vision they're putting forward.
Yeah.
Really revolutionary, like you said.
Revolutionary is definitely the word. I mean, the sheer scale of what they're attempting,
Right.
that's what jumps out.
Right.
Allness wants to be this platform for, well, everything. Elections, conflict resolution, law reform, even peacemaking. It's really unlike anything I've seen before.
I agree. So for this deep dive, our mission really is to dissect Alnas. We want to nail down its core functions, get that clear picture of its vision, and figure out how exactly it plans to achieve this, massive goal of fair global governance and harmony.
Okay, let's do it. Where do we start? The materials mention legal awareness pretty early on.
Yeah, let's start there. It's fundamental. They're really committed to educating individuals about laws, making sure people actually know the rules that affect them.
And pushing governments to be more transparent, right? To provide legal info that's actually, accessible.
Exactly. It's not just about having the laws, but making sure people can understand them. And interestingly, they're not just focused on national laws.
Oh.
No, they want to bridge gaps in legal understanding globally and even work towards international common laws, which makes sense, In our connected world, having some shared rules could be, well, incredibly useful.
That makes sense. So how do they plan to give everyone this voice, this global reach? Online voting seems key.
Absolutely central. And it's not just voting on internal Autonomous stuff. It's much bigger.
Right. How big?
Well, the idea is Autonomous facilitating online votes on really critical global issues, things like governance, how we regulate the private sector, even specific elections, resolving conflicts. Yeah. Giving verified members a direct say.
And that verified members part feels really important for credibility, right? So the results actually mean something.
Totally. You can't just have bots or sock puppets flooding the system. That verification, which we'll get into, is crucial for making sure participants are real people.
Okay.
And looking ahead, though it's not in their MVP, their initial setup, they plan to let users delegate votes.
Delegate. Give my vote to someone else.
Kind of. If you trust someone's judgment on an issue, you could let them vote for you, which, as they point out, sort of mirrors how representative democracy is supposed to work.
Huh. Interesting.
Now, here's where it gets really practical. How do they actually plan to handle big things like conflicts?
Right. The materials talk about specific services for dispute settlement, managing elections, pushing for law changes.
So they want to be the platform for sorting disagreements and updating the rules.
Pretty much. And the core principle seems to be finding equitable solutions through a majority vote.
Okay. So whether it's a dispute or a law change, the collective will, the majority, decides.
That's the idea.
Which is interesting. You do wonder, though, how a purely majority system handles, minority rights or very specific concerns within that.
That's a fair point. Now, this all sounds expensive, big platform, global reach, but they say no donations. So how does Alnas pay the bills?
Ah, yes, the funding model. That's key.
Yeah.
As info says, signing up, participating, that's generally free.
Okay.
Their money comes from fees for specific services on the platform.
Gotcha. Break that down for us. What kind of fees?
So there are fees if you use their conflict resolution services, fees if you want to run as a candidate in an Alnas facilitated election, and fees for proposing and pushing for law amendments.
Right. And the idea is these fees cover costs, ensure independence, and actually benefit communities, without needing constant fundraising. A self-sustaining model, in theory.
Exactly. Yeah. Now, to get involved in all this, the voting, the discussions, maybe even running, you need to be a verified member. What's that process like?
Looks pretty thorough. You need your national ID, your passport, some social profile info, your city, mobile number. It's multi-factor verification. Seems designed to be pretty secure.
And once you are verified, what does that unlock?
Well, you can join your local city group, participate in discussions there, vote on local stuff, including candidates. But it doesn't stop locally, does it?
No, it scales up. Becoming a candidate is the next step. You submit a request, pay a fee, city level, country level, international level. And those fees climb quite a bit.
How much are we talking?
Well, the city candidate fee is listed as $1,500. country jumps to $6,000, and international, a hefty $24,000.
Whoa, okay. Is that just revenue, or is there another reason for such high fees?
The materials suggest it's partly to ensure commitment, deter frivolous candidates, make sure people have a serious vision.
Makes sense, but you do wonder if fees that high might, create a barrier for some really good people who just don't have that kind of cash. It raises questions about accessibility for sure.
It's a valid concern. And a chunk of that fee, 50% actually, goes back to the elected body in that area, like income for their local Alnas governance.
Okay, so it funds the local structure.
Yeah.
And candidates can't vote for themselves, right? That's a key rule.
Correct. Must vote for someone else. So once these elections happen, how does the actual governance work? City, country, international levels.
Well, the elected people become the administrators for their group. They're the leaders putting the community's voted on decisions into action.
Right.
And interestingly, for countries that ally with Alnas, governments that choose to engage Alnas can provide a framework to set up an official elected governing body if that country requests it.
An alliance?
Right.
That sounds significant, like Alnas could integrate more with existing governments.
Potentially. The specifics aren't fully detailed, but it suggests a pathway beyond just being a platform. And joining these city and country groups, how does that work? Are they public?
No, they're private, for security. Verified members get specific links via the Alnos platform to join their relevant groups. Keeps it within the confirmed community.
Got it. Okay, let's shift gears. What happens when people disagree? They have this whole dispute resolution framework. How does that function?
Right. It starts with everyone involved submitting their evidence, a detailed presentation. Transparency seems key.
So everyone lays their cards on the table. Then what? A judge decides.
Not right away. First, the Alnas team reviews everything and proposes an initial judgment, a possible solution.
Okay.
Then that proposal goes to a vote within the relevant group, city, country, international. The majority vote determines the final outcome.
So it's community judgment, essentially. Oh, wait, they also mention courts. City, country, international courts.
Yes, those are overseen by the elected bodies at each level, and the judges have to be verified lawyers from that area.
Ah, okay.
And get this, each court needs at least 3 judges, and the total number must always be a prime number.
A prime number, why?
To avoid ties. Clever, right? Ensures a clear decision, especially with smaller panels. Shows they're thinking about the mechanics.
That is clever. Now, is there a fee for this dispute resolution, like the candidate fees?
Yep, $2,000. And crucially, both parties have to agree to use Alnas and pay the fee.
Ah, so it filters out minor squabbles, probably. Only serious disputes where both sides are committed to the process.
Seems likely. And again, 50% of that fee goes to the elected body and the chosen judges.
Okay. So that's resolving existing problems. What about changing things proactively? The law amendments through petitions.
Right. Any member can basically start a petition on the Alnas platform to change a law.
Okay.
These petitions then get discussed, voted on, refined within groups before they get shared more widely.
And if a petition gets a lot of support, a lot of signatures, then what? Does Alnas change the law?
Not directly. They take the petition, once it has substantial support, and formally present it to the actual lawmakers. So Alnas acts as a facilitator, an amplifier for public will.
I see.
Putting pressure on existing governments. And they want to get existing laws onto their platform too, right?
Exactly. The elected admins are supposed to ask governments for their complete sets of laws. The goal is this huge, searchable legal resource on Alnas, linking petitions directly to the laws people want to change.
Ambitious.
Yeah.
And this applies internationally too. International common law.
Yeah, same process, petitions, discussions, votes, but in the international groups. The idea is if something gets enough global support, maybe individual countries will adopt it. It kind of echoes historical efforts, toward universal principles. Always a challenge, that.
Definitely. Now, they also mention recognizing higher laws based on religion. How does that fit?
They're setting up groups for different faiths. Islam, Christianity, Judaism mentioned initially, more planned. Members discuss interpretations of religious law within those groups. If a specific higher law gets majority agreement within that religious group, it gets listed publicly on Alnas. It feels like they're trying to navigate that tricky intersection of secular and religious law. Interesting balancing act. And there's a fee for proposing these law amendments, too.
Yes, $1,000, plus you create the petition. Again, probably to encourage serious proposals. And 50% goes to the elected body and judges.
Okay. What about protecting minorities? Majority rule always raises that question.
They mention a future plan, a free will of the people amendment. The idea seems to be ensuring minority views get heard and discussed, even if the majority ultimately decides. The focus is on avoiding harm, preventing chaos, while still respecting the majority.
Okay. Shifting gears again. Law enforcement and human rights violations. How does Alnas plan to deal with abuses of power?
If someone faces that, they're told to contact listed city lawyers provided by Alnas. These lawyers then have several key roles.
Such as?
Well, they handle cases pro bono, where the costs get covered by the guilty party. They oversee police investigations, sometimes to prevent misconduct. They give case assessments, recommendations.
Okay.
And importantly, they can escalate cases with high-ranking officials who aren't cooperating. Escalate them to an international court within Alnas.
Wow. Potentially bypassing national systems for serious abuse. That's a big step.
A very big step. They also handle disputes between people and the court itself, making those public for review. And if a whole government refuses to cooperate with a victim, the lawyers can escalate it to that Alnas Global Alliance we keep hearing about.
Right, this alliance. Let's get into that. But first, these groups, city, country, religion, how do they even get started?
Seems organic. The first person who registers from a specific city, country, or religion triggers the creation of that group.
Ah, okay.
Then, registered users can join the groups matching their profile or get invited, so it grows from the ground up.
Makes sense. Okay, now this Global Alliance for Justice and Peace sounds like the muscle behind Alnas. Who's in it?
It's envisioned as prime ministers, presidents, leaders joining Alnas, representing their nations and the wider world, their main goal, combating abuse of power and human rights violations globally.
And what power do they have?
They commit to enforcing majority-agreed laws, using military and police power as necessary. The vision is no one gets away with abusing authority.
So, actual enforcement capability. Military police, that's
Yeah.
huge and potentially controversial.
Definitely ambitious. Warnings are supposed to be a final step before action, and all alliance decisions need majority votes nationally and internationally.
They even have a defense strategy outlined.
Yeah.
5 lines.
Yeah. First is promoting peace with justice, prosecution. Second, issuing warnings if that fails. Third, conflict of the last resort if warnings are ignored.
Okay.
Fourth is post-conflict repair and aid, funded by donations or alliance taxes. And fifth is long-term rebuilding for stability.
It's a whole doctrine, practically.
Yeah.
What are the guiding principles for this alliance?
Core principle. All actions driven by majority votes, focused on people's well-being. Members use their existing tax-funded forces. And the global nature is meant to stop any single nation becoming abusive.
Right, checks and balances on a global scale. Lastly, they mention a debate mechanism. How do discussions and votes work inside the groups?
Okay, so debates on laws, disputes, alliance stuff. They're run by the elected body or the members who requested the debate. In voting, the opinion with the most votes goes to the top. That's the current stand.
They can change?
Yep. If another opinion gets more support, it takes over. Other opinions are listed like comments. If they gain traction, they can rise too. New opinions have to clearly state what they disagree with, and existing ones avoid just repeating stuff. Admins can remove opinions that don't follow the rules.
Okay, so it's a dynamic voting system.
Seems like it. So let's try and wrap this up. Our deep dive shows Alnas as this really complex system trying to empower people through voting, offer dispute resolution, enable law reform, and even set up a global alliance for justice.
Yeah, absolutely. And that reliance on majority votes, the structured processes for decisions and accountability, that's central to the whole thing. It's clear Alnas aims for a world with more justice, more harmony, all driven by the will of the people. As you've been listening to all this, you might be thinking about the sheer difficulty, the practical challenges of actually doing all this.
Exactly. Which brings us to our final thought for you, our listener. When you consider this incredibly detailed, ambitious structure Alnas proposes, what do you see as the biggest potential challenges, or maybe even unforeseen opportunities, in trying to implement such a global system for governance and justice? Definitely gives you a lot to chew on.